Words are not only means of communication. This is also communicated through gestures and used in modern culture, as differ from culture to culture. Sarah lived abroad most of her life. At last she came back to England to live. She had always loved trees and flowers, and now she aimed to buy a small house in the country with a garden. Its development of civilization. This of truth grew and multiplied. Later use of steam power revolutionized whole industrial organization and transportation. The motive for the voyages of Christopher Columbus in 1492 and of John Cabot in 1497 was to find a shorter route. However, the journeys across the Atlantic Ocean brought the Europeans knowledge of the American continent species to discover the fact of the history of the world. Japan has a problem. Japan girls don't want to marry Japanese farmers anymore by the end of the country over half the village in Japan could be ghost towns. According to official statistics, 600,000 Japanese visited Britain last year. At that rate, Britain will be welcoming a million Japanese tourists by 1993. Tokyo produces more than 5 million tons of garbage per year, an average of about 1 kilogram per person per day. And getting rid of all has become a major headache for the authorities. A large proportion of Tokyo's trash is waste paper. A human language is a signaling system. As its materials, it is vocal sounds. It is important to remember that physical language is something which is spoken. The written language is secondary and derivative. The significance of malaria in colonial history can scarcely be overrated, for it was a major handle in the development of the American colonies. To the newly arrived settlers of fresh Europeans and frequently proved fatal. European sailors were afraid to sail straight westward into the vast unknown. The route seemed too many miles, for we had to be able to go there and back. A temple like that the Olympic was surrounded with statues of victorious athletes dedicated to the god. Justice may seem a strange custom for however popular champions may be, we do not expect them to have their portrait made and presented to the church and thanksgiving for victory achieved in the last match. In 2000 years, all generals and the politicians may be forgotten. But Einstein and Madame Curie and Baron Shaw and Stravinsky will keep the memory of our age alive. Older people usually find it more difficult to acquire new skills required by technological changes, and they do not enjoy some educational opportunities as young workers. Even advanced nations of Western background, if they happen too small, frequently find it necessary to utilize foreign languages for many purposes. At Danish school, for instance, we find it more sensible to publish in English for world audience than in the Danish for a limited number of fellow Danes. Much has been spoken and written about the pastoral percent of war, and we all know the effect of war too well. Yet in the name of peace, the stockpiling of armaments is going on, and we are told that safety lies not in disarming but in rearming. Thin, salted, crisp potato chips are America's favorite snack food. They originated in England when the variation on the French fried potato, and their production is the result not of a sudden struggle cooking invention, but the feat of anger. Dogs communicate in many ways. They not only bark, but they howl, growl, snarl, and whine. Animals communicate with each other not only with sound or movements, but with smell. Reading aloud is an educational tool as well as an instrument of culture. As an educational tool, reading aloud is aid at great accuracy and a better understanding of the written word. The Western way of thinking is analytical. If a Westerner has a problem or wishes to discuss the complex subject, he tries to analyze it. He tries to break the problem or subject down into separate parts. When I speak on internationalization, I don't mean the changing of external lifestyles, but the development of internal new attitudes. Our motivation must be a step with the condition all the time. Although some well-to-do people objected to free school because they would have to pay taxes to educate children, but others, most Americans realize that public education is important in a democracy. The stranger in London, especially if he has come safe from Paris, finds London at first a little job, but later on he explores the city and begins to make friends to find that it has its own special intimacy and charm. We creatures are visible and perceivable. If something cannot be seen or felt, we imagine it does not exist. We feel pity for the physically disabled because we can see the twisted limbs, but we are indifferent to the emotionally troubled because their troubles are buried inside the head. Typical American teachers are in fact very ordinary. They think their teachers make them work too hard. They love their parents, but they don't understand anything, and their friendships are most important things in the life. Advertisers admit many methods to get guests to buy their products. One of the most successful methods is to make us feel dissatisfied with ourselves and our imperfect lives. Advertisements show us who we are and what we don't have. How the water is used to affect brine, and some dryers groundwater is used for irrigation. Most of this water changes into vapor and disappears from the surfaces of plant or ground. Reading and learning will depend on something more definite than broad, general knowledge. To a significant degree, learning and reading depend on specific broad knowledge. The reason for this is that reading is not just a technical skill but also an act of communication. All the classic works for children written in the language are of a very high standard of literary style. They are sometimes difficult to read. The reason for this is that children's books were not written just for children. The novelist fascinated with people. He tells what kind of people they are, whether they are good, bad, or indifferent. Within the limits of a book, he tells what happened to the people brought to our attention. The story depends on what they do, and particularly what they do in relationship with each other. The difficulty when strangers from two countries meet is not lack of appreciation of friendship, but different expectations about what constitutes friendship and how it comes into being. To the people of ancient Egypt, life now was short. Life after death, however, was eternal. Therefore, they built their towns and of stone, and they took their position with them into another world. Much has been written in the past few years about the bond between people and their pets. Pets help keep us young. They decrease loneliness, and they give us the opportunity to be needed. Cultures vary as individuals do. The French and Chinese are noted for their cuisine, the variety of the dishes, and the interesting food, whereas English cooking has a low reputation. Other people personality us. Pureness is still